and welcome to this episode 207 of Frame and Reference. You're about to drop into a conversation between me, Kenny McMillan, and my guest Blake Horn, TP of A Cursed Man. Enjoy. I was at the ASC Clubhouse doing a video with my friend Joey, who does Adam Savage's Tested YouTube channel.
Cool.
And Steve Gaynor from, he's the curator of the clubhouse, or of the museum there, was walking us through like the history of cameras, because they've got literally like the first of many different things. Like I was holding the very first anamorphic lens.
Whoa.
Which was just this box, like a tin box with a very foggy anamorphic element in it, which they would just slap up against a regular lens. I figured the first anamorphic lens would have been built, but no, it was an adapter.
I love that. I think that's like, just like they're magicians, alchemists. And I think that like, the whole, when you're on set and like, all hell's breaking loose and you're doing shitty rigs and you're like, oh man, like, and you have imposter syndrome where you're like, am I even good enough or whatever it is? And it's like, these are just a bunch of artists who are kind of brilliant. And we're like, let's just combine these weird elements together and then like create literally magic.
Well, the thing that I found fascinating was like, especially because film is such a young medium, with all those cameras in front of you, you can see where one DP got annoyed enough to make the next iteration. So like the way then before reflexes, right? Before like you had the prism, they would have to shift the entire camera to one side. Well, first they would just look in like a lens that was kind of close to it.
So like a TLR, like a twin lens reflex in a way.
More or less, but there got zero reflex. And then eventually they got pissed off enough that you had to go to the other side of the camera. Like you used to have to rotate everything, look in the other the operators or the assistant side, come back to the operator side, flip everything back, and then do it. Then a guy goes, how about I move the camera body instead of taking everything off the dovetail, move the camera body to one side so you can look through the taking lens and then move it back to record.
Amazing.
And then another guy goes, well, that's annoying. What if I just make it a rotator?
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's just like step after step. So and then I immediately after I did a podcast at the Clubhouse with the guy, the RE product specialist. Yeah. And he was telling me about RE's like digital, or we were in general talking about like the progress of digital, which is obviously much more recent. But it's crazy to think that in only 120 years, there hasn't been a lot of changes, and most of them are workflow based. There's not really but it's always like someone does something enough, because we were talking about like the RE35, and it's like, why did that come about? It's like, well, the Mini wasn't supposed to be an operator camera, so we spent a lot of time listening to people who made the 35, shit like that. But you're right, it was science, but at the same time it was practicality and a little bit of magic, as you said, like just using what you had to make it work and make it pretty for the time.
And like it's so funny to think about like the Airy Mini, right? The Alexa Mini, and like before that was like the Alexa M, right? And it's like these unintentional consequences that shape so much of like you have a tool like an Alexa, like a big classic, and then they come out with a Mini. The intention is Steadicam, gimbals were starting to become a thing at that point. Drones were starting to become a thing, and then everybody just adopted it in full and like, no, this is how we're going to use it. And I think that's always so like interesting, and like coming from like an engineer's perspective, thinking about like the engineers that designed the camera, it's like I don't think they were anticipating that at all. And the reality is that like that camera shaped so much of modern cinematography and storytelling.
Oh, there's also a fun fact that I learned was there was a guy who sold water skis who was also a camera guy, and he wanted to sell his water skis. So there's this video called This is CinemaScope, and he built one camera. It's at the ASC, and it's 3 cameras bolted to each other, aiming like one left, one center, one right. And then he filmed up like a bunch of girls on water skis doing the pyramid, and then like on a roller coaster and stuff. And it was like halfway to sell his water skis, but he built the CinemaScope camera set, like a just giant box with, but yeah, it's all just like nothing is set in stone. Everything is whimsy.
Yeah.
Digital is almost more boring because it's like, well, where's the whimsy in it? Yeah, you can rig it however you want, but like none of us are sitting here like, you know what? I'm going to put that sensor in that body
Yeah.
upside down, whatever it is. But
I forget the filmmaker, and it's what was the movie? It was like it came out in like 2012. It was like it wasn't Gutter Flower, but it was something like that where he like just straight up built his own cameras.
oh, I
Um
don't know.
there was like a whole flamethrower thrower aspect, tons of like gnarly cars, like post-apocalyptic look, and I think he like built his own cameras for it. Oh, the name slips by me, but
I'll have to look that up.
I just love when people are just like ingenious. They're like, I want to create this thing. It doesn't exist, so I'm just gonna make it. And oftentimes it's falling apart.
Yeah.
It's like never working, but you push through, and if you're able to like actually like obtain it, that's like what filmmaking is, I think. It's just like you're just like constantly trying to make it work, and it always turns out differently than you envision it. But that's like part of the process. That's the journey.
Well, it's like I think the best filmmakers are at their heart tinkerers and problem solvers, not necessarily quote unquote artists, although that's certainly an element. But I think the people who succeed in this industry are the ones that enjoy collaborative problem solving more than anything.
Yeah. And art's messy. It's like
Yeah.
humans are messy. We're super emotional. We're rarely logical. There's a lot of evidence to support that now, which is a blast. And you're like, oh no, um, that's bad. Uh, but that's the beauty of art. Is like really being able to like share that human spirit,
Yeah.
which I'm like, yeah, that leads me to thinking about AI, and I'm like, oh god, here's another thing.
I'll say this. I have tried 4 different times now to get
Mhm.
ChatGPT to write me very simple code, and
Yeah,
it's failed on all 4 times. One of them,
yeah.
I straight up said, "Can you generate LUTs?" And they went, "Yes." And I said, "Can you generate a LUT based on this film stock?" Absolutely. And I spent
Huh.
2 weeks of it going almost there. Just got to upload it, and it was two
What?
weeks of it couldn't do it. And then I finally go, "It sounds like you're in a loop." And it goes, "Actually, yeah, I can't actually make LUTs."
Oh.
And dude, I got to send you a screenshot of the conversation. It's creepy how it was like, I feel really bad about this. I shouldn't have been stringing you on, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, because these, generative AI is one thing, but like these chat GPT models are not intelligent yet,
Mm,
but like still they are based off of reading our conversations, not our thoughts.
yeah.
Right. And so the other times it was just basic like server code or like any simple, 4 lines, and it would still fuck it up because it's reading, it's just reading and regurgitating. It's not coming up with smart, maybe it could be a good research tool or but I'm not as
Yeah.
afraid. Steve over at the ASC was talking a lot about his thoughts on AI and stuff. And I don't know if I was more scared before I used it. And now I'm like, well, I don't know if we're there yet.
I just, I think it's like you're depriving like the experience of collaborating with like another individual. Like obviously you're just experimenting with a lot, but like the reality is like you're like discovering and fine-tuning and like creating a lot, whether that's you like watching YouTube tutorials, which is great. I love YouTube. I think YouTube's like the pinnacle of human existence. It's like you can learn anything. It's amazing. Someone can hold your hand, and as long as you're patient, you can really like figure anything out. And like, or if you work with a DIT and you like meet up with a buddy, you have a beer, you like you do a camera test, and you're just discovering something. And I think like that's the human way. And
And
it's
that's
like,
more fun.
yeah, and it's like, I feel like AI is all about results rather,
Right.
and you're just totally skipping out on the journey, which is like that is fundamentally what makes us like creatures and humans. And to just completely not do that because some tech bro wants to make a gajillion dollars, I'm like, just it's a hard no for me. It's a hard pass. Maybe I'm a dinosaur.
No. Well, and I think the people that want a result right now are, as you said, probably people just trying to make money. I think, or maybe others, but I think the people that want that who aren't in it for the money, but just see cool stuff, maybe they're younger, whatever, haven't yet experienced the joy that is collaboration and iteration and failure, more for lack of a better term. Like, it remind, obviously your doc is about magic. I'm a magician of the trickery sort, but one thing that always ruins the experience every time you'll do a card trick for someone, how'd you do that? Every single time. And there's all kinds of fun ways to tell them no.
Yeah.
Anytime you acquiesce and show them, you watch them just go, oh. They don't go, oh, that's so cool. Very rarely. Every once in a while, someone is like into learning magic, and then you show them, they like, because they want to iterate. But if it's just a lay person, as it were, the second you show them how, all the tension is gone, the magic is gone. So you just tricked me.
Yeah,
you just moved your hand like this, and it's like and it's the same thing with getting those results instantly. It's like, yeah, okay, now you know how to do the trick. Is that fun?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you learned anything? Because that's the other thing, right? Like learning is iterative. Learning is failure. You don't learn from success. You learn from having your hand bitten and then going like, oh, don't do that again.
Correct.
If someone says don't do that, then you'll be like, all right, and then you forget. You need to internalize things.
It like turns your brain into mush, literally. Like if someone's just giving you answers, there's no self-exploration, there is no adventure, there's no discovery. It's so funny. And I think that's where like so many. It's interesting about like the card trick, and you show like the layperson, and they're like, oh, like that was underwhelming. And it's interesting when it comes to filmmaking, because I think everybody is like at one point in their childhood discovered like what people were doing that made the movie. Like you watch this thing and you're like, oh wow, I like feel something. I love movies. And then you see like, wait, people made this? And you're like, how did they make this? What? Like, I'm such a big fan of like Alien, Terminator, like all like old like sci-fi 80s, 90s classics. And the thing, like, and just seeing like the practical effects and how things like came to be, I was like, that for me was like getting to see the card trick and be like, I want to know, I want to do the card trick.
Yeah. But see, that's fun. Whenever I meet people who are like, I love card tricks, I want to learn them, it's great. And it's the same thing with film. I'm writing for Pro Video Coalition or just, I have an intern now. Like,
no way.
Yeah, I know.
Cool.
Passing on as much knowledge as possible, I get a lot out of. And especially with newer people coming through, they ask questions that maybe you've completely skipped over or maybe hadn't thought about in a while and can now bring a new perspective to. Like it keeps that the human element, as you were calling it, alive within yourself. It's very easy to get complacent. Granted, I'm not at a high level, but I'm sure when you get to a certain level in film or whatever it may be, you start to maybe phone it in, or you think you know everything, so you stop asking questions. It becomes a job, So anything that keeps it alive is fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting within our field and within our society. It's like, there are times where it's a gig's a gig, and something I've been trying to tell myself.
I take those jobs. A gig's a gig. I will take that paycheck.
Yeah.
I do my best, but
I've been just trying to tell myself like I'm not above anything. Like, because the reality is you actually aren't. Your ego might try to tell you otherwise. But like, think of like the gigs that you got from doing something that you just were like, how the hell did I get to this really cool thing? Oftentimes it starts with something that like, that you didn't like really like think of. Like, I day played with a good buddy of mine this is like back when the movie I think the M15 was out, and we operated, the two of us.
The M15, were like stabilizer?
Yeah, the old movie M15. Yeah, like the M10.
Movie. I heard movie. I was thinking.
Oh no, sorry, movie.
The movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like this, like I think it was a J.C. Penney, like really small commercial, and we showed up, and the DP was there, and we show up, we shoot, and we wrap so much earlier, and we like pack up our things. And we look at a non-union shoot, and there is like an obscene amount of gear everywhere. And it is like 3 people, like a DP, gaffer, and like an AC. And we're like, oh my gosh, these people are going to be here for like hours. So we just helped out. And it turned out the DP that I helped out is like one of my mentors. And like, I've gotten so much work from, so much great advice, so much knowledge from. And it's just like, oh, you just stay back, do what you think is right. And, it just leads to just a whole new like world.
Well, and I've found that like, the best way to suss out whether you should do a job is like, if you trust the person inviting you to the job, but they tell you like, hey, this doesn't have a budget or whatever. And you know that, I mean, this takes effort, obviously, and age and experience, but like, if you trust that person and they bring you on a low paying or no paying job or whatever, 9 times out of 10, they probably wrangled a bunch of other people that are in a similar situation that are talented and doing someone a favor. And then that's how you expand your network. That's how you actually, I guess, network, as opposed to, being friendly and waiting, more so than if you were to be like, no, I only take gigs that fit my day rate now, or whatever.
It's so this is a great segue because the director of A Cursed Man, Liam LeGue, is also a director of photography, and I met him on Craigslist in like 15 or 16. He needed a gaffer. He's from the original Jersey, like off the coast of France. It's part of the United Kingdom, and he was in the States. He like had just moved here full time, and he needed a gaffer. He just didn't know any gaffers, and I came on and we did this like PSA, which is really sweet. It was all about like getting kids away from iPads and like playing in real life, and we like hit it off. And fast forward like a decade later, and we have like this movie where we travel the world together, and it's really bizarre and like totally nutty. And it's like, how did I meet Liam? It was because I responded to a Craigslist ad.
Yeah. It's all about people, it's not necessarily. That's why I'm always like those, when people go like, oh, there's a mixer. I'm like, don't waste your time on the mixer. Cause that's just a bunch of, students all looking at each other like, which one of us is the most successful? It's like speed dating.
No, literally.
Yeah.
Hit up, like my advice is like, oh, just email someone or DM them or text them if you have their number, whether it's a DP that like you admire and personally, or if it's a cold call, and be like, yeah, you want to get a beer, you want to get a coffee, you want to like just go for a walk. I would love to pick your brain. And usually that means you get so much more out of that because you're not going there. When you go to a mixer, you're like, everybody wants work.
Yeah.
And there's like blood in the water, or they're like, they're sharks, and they're like, is there blood in the water? Maybe there is. And you're like, there's no blood in the water. There's no cash here.
There's A7Ss and a dream.
Bro, don't say that. Don't knock on an A7S. Are you kidding me? Never knock on an A7S. I'm a huge fan of little cameras. I'm a huge fan of like random cameras, and like also like, bro, I remember 2 little
guys right here.
There it is.
This X100 was my B cam on a doc I just did.
How'd you like it?
Perfect. A cam was a C70, and you would never know. It needs a little bit of color to match, but you'd never know.
We shot A Cursed Man on C70s.
See, okay, thank you. A bunch of my friends keep saying, I can't get good color out of a C70. And I was watching your doc, and I was like, this shit looks good. And
just like, you
just haven't done it yet. You haven't dug deep.
And like, yes, like an Arri camera.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Is amazing. They're the easiest tools. Reds, you're working with a computer, and unfortunately, that sometimes that's not the best tool, but you can get an incredible image out of any.
Literally, I tell everyone, if it was made after conservatively 2015, let's say 2015, if you know what your limitations are for that camera, whatever they may be, you can get a phenomenal image out of it. Like the dynamic range situation was pretty much solved by then.
Yes.
If you're, when I was talking to the Arri guy, he was saying that RE35 was made or the original Arri was 14 stops because no display could display more than like 12.
Unbelievable.
And now we have OLEDs and stuff and HDR that can do more. So they're like, our camera needs to be future proofed against that. Anyone who's asking what camera they should get is like, get whatever, man. Because it's going to be on YouTube, and that 8 stops, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Just take a little more effort lighting it. Make sure your highlights aren't blown. You'll be fine.
The best is 28 Days Later. They shot it on Canon. I think we talked about this probably.
We before. Did. And I actually
XL2s.
I won't say who just because it might give away whatever, but I just another guest of the pod just came by and grabbed my XL2 to test they might use it on this horror film they're working on.
Amazing.
Everything old's new again.
Yeah. I
So
love little cameras.
on your doc, how many people were there? Because like, first of all, it looks incredible.
Thank you.
I would love to know. I'm shooting a crap ton of docs right now, and
Yeah.
normally I'm less questioning, but now I've worked a lot. Like, how much lighting were you getting done here? How much time were you spending on these setups, and how many cameras were you working with?
Totally. So camera wise, we shot primarily with two Canon C70s. When we did interviews, we sometimes had a C300 Mark II with us as this like sort of higher angle C cam that I think only like one or two shots makes it in the entire doc. But my B cam, who was with me everywhere except Mexico, Sam Rosenthal, who's just an incredible, like way more than just an operator. Like definitely he's credited as additional photography because of that. Just like so hungry to make a good image, just such a great personality, and having him there made the experience just so much better. So it was just me, him, and Liam again, a DP. So like going into situations, the most lighting that we did was for interviews, obviously, and we just had a total travel kit. We would usually rent stands locally and then travel with a Falcon Eyes, like 18 by 24 inch flex light, which I'm a huge fan of those, like over aperture f22s. We had a Nan light, I think 500 that once in a while played. We had Nan light Pavo tubes, which were super useful. Trying to think what else we had, but tiny little itty bitty kit. And we knew you know, um, like the crazy part is Falcon Eyes can play with daylight if you're like really strategic with your windows. And also negative, we would travel with like Duvteen just because nothing, Duvteen is going to be the smallest, lightest, most like impactful, and definitely needing negative.
Got to list it on a carnet.
Yeah. Oh, the carnets. Oh God, dude.
I just discovered those, and I go to Spain, and I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. So I got everything to fit in my backpack.
Yes, there it is.
Tripod,
Yep.
lens, battery, everything. I got these small rig V-Locks that you can power by USB-C, so I didn't.
Oh, those are great.
Dude,
yes.
That was traveling light. That's also why the X100 was my V cam, because it fit in my crossbody, in my.
That's it. It's like the best cameras you have. Who knows? Maybe I'll get flagged for this, but the hack is do not travel with a Pelican, right? If you are going to avoid a carnet and you're like on that line of being like, because carnets are a huge pain that you have to. If you are going to do a carnet, you have to make sure you show up early before a flight. You have to make sure that the customs office is open. You have to make sure that your flight is going to align with that.
Well, and also explain what it is, because I didn't even know what it was until I finally had to go fly out of the country.
So a carnet is basically a type of insurance that is telling a country that you're importing goods that you're not going to sell, and that when you leave the country, you're taking the same amount of goods, that you're basically saying, like, we did not bring these in, sell them without your country basically reaping the benefits at all.
Right. Tariffs.
Well,
avoidance of tariffs.
That's a whole nother story. Yeah. But as an indie filmmaker, carnets are very expensive, one. And then they're very complicated, especially if you're going to kind of like big international travel, because sometimes if you're flying into a country and you have a layover, but you're going to another country, you still have to get your customs approved in that location, which is a huge time suck. So your layover might be 2 hours and you land and you're like, I do not physically have time to leave the airport, get my carnet approved, and then come back go through security and the whole rigmarole. But the trick is no Pelicans, do not travel with Pelicans, and use think tanks because they look like just gear, and use just normal suitcases. And then if you're caught,
that's on
your YouTuber.
Yeah, no, I was already ready with, and to be fair, what we were going to shoot isn't like, there was no plan. It was more just like a thing of opportunity. So I mean, it wasn't even really going to be a lie for me if I said I'm making a YouTube video, because that could have been it. But also the C70, I made sure to take everything off the C70, so it just looked like a thick DSLR.
I think we did it by the books in Accursman, though. Liam is such a great director, DP, producer. He always like crosses his T's and dots his I's. And almost positive we did a Carnage just because we like had a little bit too much gear.
Well, and the other thing I should say about my situation was I was the only one.
Yes.
Plus the other guy who was interviewing the subject. But other than that, you know, if you have any more than two people, and you know, the gear, the whatever, you should. I don't think anyone should take from this that you should avoid following the law. But indie docs, not great budgets.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. But yeah.
But I was gonna say, so you have the C70s, obviously you got the built-in NDs, you got great color sense, whatever.
There it is.
Probably
Yep.
shooting to SD. Were you shooting RAW?
Yes, because the update had just occurred that we could do raw LT, which was wonderful.
And it's not much bigger than XFAVC anyway.
That's the craziest part. It's not. It's like a tiny bit grainier. I won't even say noisier, but you do get an extra stop of dynamic range. Like it looks beautiful.
And 12-bit color.
That's wonderful. 12-bit is like the sweet spot. It's like that's where it starts really opening up a lot of possibilities. And
I will say
so fun. Yeah.
It is grainier only because XFAVC or any of the compressed ones have built-in noise reduction, even if
you're skipping it. Yeah, exactly. So you can just add it in post. But I don't know. It's like, you know, you're roughening up the digital image, which almost always I do a pass like a little bit of grain. Like, let's just add 5% of grain that only the colorists can see on their OLED monitor that no one else would ever be able to see.
Yeah. Well, it also does a good job of kind of smoothing out really high frequency detail that no one really wants to see that much. You know, grain has other uses than aesthetic.
Exactly. Yeah.
For sure. But I noticed not on every shot, at least it didn't seem like that, but you did seem to have a specialty lens, like a Petsfall or something like that.
So a lot of that's done in post, funny enough.
Look at you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did have the, help me remember, it's the 55 millimeter swirly spherical lens that's Russian made, not Voigtlander. It's, thank you so much. We had a Helios. Sometimes that would play, and then most of the time we were shooting with DZO Pictor zoom lenses, Super 35, really compact. And I actually love those lenses. I think those lenses are, you know, DZO, super inexpensive, and I actually think I like their optics.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, every single time I've like framed up a shot, they're T29, and shooting with them wide open, it's like, wow, this just looks nice. I love the fall off. I love the bokeh. I really, really like those lenses a lot. Big fan. And they're parfocal, which is crazy, especially for the amount that they cost. And I like the build. They're like actually really, really light. And a lot of the swirly effect is done in post. That's like, you know, Liam was very, very diligent with making them just a little subtle, just to give it that like otherworldly mysticism to the image.
Yeah. And what were you guys doing for color? Because it's a very strong look. You know, it's not like your classic teal and orange, but it does have a very distinct. I really love the look of it.
Cool, thank you.
Even the stuff that he's shooting on his phone, I assume his phone, the airplane and stuff. Like even that was graded in a way that makes it all match, makes it all look good. Like, so what were you were there any references for that, or was that kind of free balling, or how'd you come up with that?
A lot of references were coming from like 80s and 70s horror movies. Like big references were like John Carpenter, Altered States, Jacob's Ladder, and then like mixing this all into a documentary. Like a lot of where we were lighting were obviously all of our interviews and some of the setups, like Liam in his office. And then when there's a scene in New Orleans, I don't want to give too much away, that we did light and then let a practitioner just do their thing authentically. And we had a lot going that was very aggressive, and we were using small HD 503 monitors. And then we would just like pull it back a little bit here and there. And sometimes we would set up, be like, whoa, it looks so crunchy, but let's just, you know, just the intensity wise, we'll like dial it back to like 70 or something like that. Just knowing in post, it's like, okay, we don't want to go this aggressive. But I kind of like doing that with LUTs, is like you find one that is super aggressive, and then just like you kind of light to that, and you're like, okay, there's like no details in our shadows here. What is that actually going to look like? Rather than like switching a LUT mid shoot, you're actually just like kind of toggling the intensity, and then like, oh, the colors later on I'll be able to communicate with them and give them like the idea and the vision for something like this. But for something like this, we're like, this is darker subject matter. We are referencing horror movies to shoot this, but we want it to have a more aggressive look. We don't want it just to be like kind of a traditional 709. So, and then when we lit, it's like, single source, toppy, let the shadows fall into darkness. And there's some scenes there that I'm like so thrilled and so happy with how it really turned out.
Dude, that first ish scene in at like 16 minutes in or whatever, when
the knots.
Oh, well, that too. But I was just going to say the interview with the guy who's like, I don't like, he's like talking about being a practitioner. He's like, I want to curse. And then the guy's like, I'm out. And like he immediately, he goes from like being very like mystical to like the thing that I really appreciated about this doc was it was not, I'm at a loss for words. I want to say corny, because it would be so easy for you guys to sit in that like voodoo kind of, this guy's looking to get cursed voodoo mode thing. And then like off rip, you have this one practitioner going like, I'm a black man in America. I'm cursed every day. You want to fucking curse? And I was like, I love this. I love this setup. I love that we're taking because I'm non-religious. I'm not mystical. The moon's the moon. It's a rock. But I loved the interplay between sort of voices or people or ideas that were much more, I don't know, scientific or realistic maybe, as well as all these people who are true believers in what they're doing, and especially the way that you lit it and shot it, it makes it feel like a movie until you break that kind of fourth wall. And it's I found it very engaging, the way that all of those, like you're saying, horror elements are brought into a documentary setting and the subject matter. I think it was very well crafted.
Thank you so much for that. And it's interesting, like that's my favorite part of the documentary. And when we filmed that, it was very eye-opening about our intentions and here, like going into somebody else's world and asking for something and understanding our privilege for that, as well as being outsiders of a community and beliefs. And it's interesting. It's like, people were skeptical of our intentions and Liam's intentions about exploring this and asking for a curse. And ultimately, it's like, we discover that, a lot of it is actually, the way that we as outsiders look at curses. A lot of times it's actually, these are people's beliefs, and often they're blessings. They're actually not curses. And this idea of, we think that like hoodoo and voodoo have all these curses, and Lilith explains like these aren't malicious things. These are protective ways of being that people who have no sense or no ability or luxury of actually protect themselves, these curses were to protect themselves. These weren't to harm other people, but it's to protect themselves and their loved ones and their families. And, a huge, probably the biggest theme of the entire documentary is belief and the power of belief.
I was about to say, it's like any religion,
Correct. And these are alternative spiritual practices. So you can't, it was so important that to both me and Liam, that when we went in here, we were not, that no person, no practitioner was the butt of a joke.
Right.
And the best part about screening this was there were like actually a surprising amount of laughs in the theater. I was able to see it twice on the big screen with a pretty large audience, and everybody was always laughing at Liam. And always at him, and I was like, oh, this is great, and Liam were both like thrilled about it. But going back to the idea of belief and specifically being skeptical, is I would consider myself a skeptic as well. And when I first had my initial conversation with Liam, I was like, oh, he's like, so we're on like a scale of belief, like what do you think about all this? And I was like, well, I consider myself a skeptic. And he asked the question, would you get cursed? And instantly I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And my question is, would you get cursed?
No.
There you go.
Because
And
here's
now
the thing.
there it is.
I all this I can't remember who said it, but my whole position in life is I don't know. Not that I do know that something doesn't exist. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. In that case, no, I'm good. You can I'll take a protective curse. Fuck it. I don't know. That could help.
A
But
blessing. Exactly.
I'll take a blessing. Why not?
And my BCam operator and I, Sam, we were wearing. Oh, he would remember the stone. It's this black stone that's like a protective stone, and we wore it the whole shoot. And Sam couldn't join me on Mexico, and I had an incredible operator and this wonderful fixer, who really saved the day on in multiple occasions. Nacho and Alejandro, and um, it's like when you're in it and you're like, you just don't really know. And, what was so wonderful is that you're surrounded by people who do believe, right?
Right.
And right when you are surrounded by people like that, you immediately have so much respect for them. And, a lot of people didn't find comfort or didn't find themselves within mainstream religion. And, you know, these other forms of spirituality, they found um, a lot of value in. And if anybody can discover that and find that for themselves, then I'm all here for it.
Right. And also too, like, I was raised non-denominational Christian, and then I found that wasn't necessarily for me. Still have plenty of friends who are Christian. I got friends from every, whatever.
Sure.
And it does make me think a lot of times how I suppose I feel lucky that I don't feel the internal need for that sort of unknown comfort, or because there's something, using Christianity as an example, because it's just there is something that a lot of people find comfort in when you give yourself up to an unknown, right? Instead of trying to micromanage everything in your life, at a certain point, religious or not, you do have to let go, and you can do that either through religion, you can do that through any of those sort of I don't want to say alternative, because that suggests that there's a mainstream, but alternative to us, voodoo, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just the moon, whatever. I think people do inherently need a reason to let go of control.
You need to believe in something, like you just do, whether that's believing in yourself, believing in your community, believing in a project, right? Like, belief is so important. And just, whether that's tricking your brain into positive thinking, right? But like, you start thinking about, the power of like the placebo effect, which is totally real and embraced by Western modern science. It is imperative that you have a placebo within any type of scientific study.
Yep.
Which is telling someone that they're taking something that it actually isn't, right? Which, like, shows the power of belief right there.
Well, you've got,
and
I was gonna say, you've got someone. I'm trying not to like give away much about this doc, but like you've got someone in it who says like, you meet them, and then later, whatever, who's like, a lot of people don't realize the crucial element for any of this to work is themselves. And I'm like, hell yeah, brother. Like, it's, for instance, like when someone, they've been married for 80 years and someone dies and they die like right after. Yeah. Or if some people just, finally, hit rock bottom, not alcohol wise, but just like in their life, and choose, people hate this phrase, and I used to, but choose to be happy. Sure. And then suddenly their health improves.
Yeah.
You're the only, you can, it's like a vaccine, you put it in there to spur the body to do something. But, this is maybe a bad example, because I'm not trying to suggest that you shouldn't take vaccines, because you should. But I'm saying, like, at a certain, there is, your body needs to make the thing.
Yeah.
Whether in the mind, whether it be the mind, body, or spirit. Like,
there it is. Well done.
But yeah, I just really think you guys did a great job. Like, as you said, we're not making fun at anyone here. I think it was a more academic endeavor than I expected based on the tagline, essentially.
So when we went to the Ryan Institute in North Carolina and met John, he was the best. Like this is an institute that used to be part of UNC, and then I forget what the story is. I think it was either a funding dispute or they weren't allowing Dr. Ryan to like conduct his experiments. But it was so cool. Like just like the passion truly and like the curiosity. It's I think it is important to be skeptical to in any type of scenario and to bring critical thinking skills to any type of scenario. It is really important because unfortunately there are people out there in the world who prey upon people's ignorance. And let's just say that person I'm talking about doesn't exist in this documentary at all.
Yeah. These folks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
those people are frustrating.
It's, like you have to really look at it, and it always, like any type of story, any type of person, it's like, what lens are you looking at this through? And, any type of documentary project that I go through, I always try to go in with an extremely empathetic eye of like, people are inviting me into their homes. They are letting me capture them, and I want to show them in the absolute highest regard and really think about like whatever choices they made within their lives and try to find, okay, what is the reasoning behind all this? And it's such a privilege to be able to do that, for someone to say, hey, you can tell my story.
Right.
And you just have to like respect your subject matter. You always have to respect them.
Well, and it's also like that you're kind of forcing your subject to sort of, in a weird way, fall in love with you immediately because they need to trust you that you're going to take care of them in such a fashion. Like it's a very vulnerable place when you pick these people out of the world. They've never been on camera. And then be like, hey, we're going to basically put you under a microscope for an hour and a half and everyone in the world's going to see it. You got to trust me that I'm not going to fuck you. That's a very difficult position to put someone in.
I thought about this the other day. I was just like getting ready in the morning. I was like, what would it feel like if I just had like a camera crew right in here with me right now?
Act normal. I was like, no, yeah. Just brush your teeth like you normally do when I'm over your shoulder.
There's just like some person just like gritting their teeth, holding this like heavy camera, like trying to be quiet, but like it's
sweaty,
obviously, yeah, like knocking into things, and you're like, what is? And it was funny. I just like did this like exercise. I was like, that would just make me feel uncomfortable, but I think eventually you would actually get used to it.
Yeah. Well, and then you make friends. I always feel bad when you leave the dock because then you're like, it's like leaving college. You're like, oh, I'll see you again, I guess. Or I guess high school's a better example because, you never see those fuckers anymore. But what's that?
There's some people. Go ahead. But I think that's like, it's just like, what a privilege to be invited into someone's life for them to share with you. And these aren't just like, hey, like, here, meet this person and surface level. You are instantly diving into some of the most intimate and vulnerable aspects of a person's existence. And, it's funny. I always think about compensation, right? You always think about compensation for like, I don't know, as like, what are you getting out of this if you're doing something like this? And you're like, all right, am I getting artistic fulfillment? Am I getting monetary compensation? What is going on here? And I thought about this, like, just on like a career level, like, how incredibly lucky are we that we get to go to these places that you would have never gotten to go to before, truly experience someone else's way of life, and then like sharing that with the world. It's just such a wonderful just career, honestly, if you're, and it's challenging, goodness gracious. But ultimately it's just like, wow, we are so lucky to be able to do this.
On 100% agree. And you know what's crazy is I uh, never thought I was gonna be like a documentary DP.
Yeah.
Because I was so into the image, you know. And obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but like you've shown an example nowadays, especially. There's a ton of great docs out there. I think there's more room to make a gorgeous looking doc than there was when we were on DVXs or whatever. And also lighting, is much more, yeah. But you're so right. Like there is so much joy that I find meeting these people in a non-pretentious manner with a light crew, usually your friends or people you know well, and just like, because I love traveling. Like whenever I'm traveling, I just try to find like the closest dive bar, and I'll just hang out there for an evening just to like get a lay of who's there. You know, what's the culture of this town?
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. You meet the best people doing that.
Yeah.
Or the other move is you go to a nice cocktail bar, and then when they close, ask the bartender where they're going. Go there.
Yes.
That's fun. Don't do that at the beginning of the shoot.
Yeah. You have to have your you have to stay strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, it's like you're like you said, it's such a privilege, and it really does make, you know, I'm being compensated relatively well for the docs, but the emotional payoff, I think, is something that I truly, you know, if I was able to pay my rent and feed myself still, I'd be like, yeah, I'll just come do that. You know?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, what type of stuff do you bring with yourself outside of the camera that makes your job easier? You know, I have like a little refresh kit that I have like mints and gum and deodorant and like, you know, like toothbrushes and shit, but extra socks.
That is such a good question because I have it down to a science. So I have the first thing is something called the sky clip, which is a little plastic hook, and that goes either sometimes on the seat in front of you when you're flying or for the tray. The problem is you can't use this at the same time. It's like $13, and it has these two little clip sprockets that you can then put an iPad up. So then you're not looking down at the tray and breaking your neck. You can look up, and then you can put. I always travel with an iPad, and I have this Tamrac camera bag that I bought on sale from B&H 7 years ago. That was $15, and it's like perfect. And so I have the iPad. I can fit a switch in there, so it's always a switch. For this travel job, we we had to do a domestic flight in India when we were heading back from India. We did a domestic flight, and then we had a 13-hour layover in the airport.
Oh, jeez.
And myself and Sam, my B cam op, we played Switch, and I played Legend or Breath of the Wild Zelda for, I'm not exaggerating, 11 hours straight. I just cranked it out. Sam was playing something else for 13 hours, and Liam didn't have anything. And he said he was having an existential crisis of like wandering the airport and we couldn't go into the airport because we had all the bags to check. So we had to be like in this waiting room. Like we couldn't leave and go out, and we couldn't go into the airport. So we were just stuck, and Liam had nothing to do. Like I think he exhausted all of his options with Wi-Fi, and he like was having the hardest time.
Because those bookstores aren't even outside of the security gate.
There's nothing. We had nothing.
Oh,
it was terrible. But I have always a water bottle. I then have an eye mask, earplugs, always snacks, usually pistachios, beef jerky, dried fruit. My mom always imparted a piece of advice. She's like, get your absolute, like your cheat food, like the snack or candy that you're like, it's too unhealthy to eat, and then save it for the flight. And then when you're on the flight, you can open it up and be like, oh, wow, this is nice. I love the Trader Joe's dark chocolate covered almonds.
Yeah.
And then I'll have, Axon makes this really cool little Sony NP like battery plate, right? It actually goes on their iPad cage, and it has charging in with USB-C and then USB-A and C out. And then you can just it's part of your kit. You don't need another external battery if you need to charge anything when you're flying. So I use that. And then if I can squeeze it in, a book, almost never. So my iPad will also double as like my reading material, whether it's a book or a graphic novel.
Yeah, I always bring a book. I never read it, but I also when I'm not bringing the book, I'll just do the Kindle. I have like a Paperwhite Kindle. My other suggestion to people is this is what remains of it, but I get like a little plastic full of. So this is like right now it's just soy
Is that sriracha?
And the sriracha from
Starbucks.
And some soy sauce and usually hot sauce and then flaky salt.
Oh my gosh.
Church up the little meals that they give you.
That is so smart.
The flaky salt can solve almost any. It's in one of these little like aluminum containers, and I just put a shit ton of Malden diamond salt in there. Any little packets that you can get from your favorite takeout spot, I just put them in a little baggie and keep that with me for the plane as well, or just wherever you're going to go eat.
I love eating on airplanes. It's like
I don't mind.
I love it. I'm like actively excited for the meals. Like I don't care how bad they are. I'm like, we are currently like time traveling. I'm going across the globe and I'm being fed like a king. Well, it's amazing. It makes you feel so good. It's probably like, would you like the meat or the veggie? And I was like, no, I'll take both.
Yeah. Luckily, they never say, you want the fish? You're like, no, I don't want skyfish.
Unfortunately, I don't do skyfish. Yeah. No. There is a limit to my love.
Yeah. But like even the little breads they bring you, come on. So good.
Oh my gosh. The bread with the butter. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Butter is better. That's what my grandfather would always say.
Well, and then also for people who haven't been on an international flight, there's no turbulence up there. So it's just like, there's no, like, you're just vibing. It's like you completely forget you're on a plane except for the noise.
No, it's so,
you got to go in like 2 minutes.
I do. Another big one, compression socks. Because
yes,
I'm just horrified of blood clots. So I try to get up every few hours just to walk around and hydrate. Yeah.
That's the other one. Where's the little bit? I'll just show it to you later. But liquid IVs, because they bring you those water bottles all the time. So I'll get like a couple liquid IVs and then some of that like lime flavorant. They're a much smaller packet, just to church up the water bottle a little bit.
Dude, you're just like traveling like with like a little like pantry.
It fits in a sling bag.
Brilliant.
So I got like the cable for the phone.
Yep.
Earplugs. All the little snacks and shit. Battery, whatever. Yeah, it all fits in the one sling bag.
I love that. Everybody has their own process. Oh, and a inflatable sleeping pillow.
See, that's why I get window. So
I feel very claustrophobic window.
Oh, I'd see in the same way that you're like, the meals are great and stuff. It's like, it can get a little annoying, but again, on the international flights, it's a little easier to just like stretch out a lot of times in even the normal seats. But I can just, right up against the wall and just conk out for at least a couple hours.
That's a superpower.
Yeah. And then it's Gladiator for 3 or whatever, how long that movie was. The flight back from Spain, I guess from Paris, everyone was watching Gladiator 2. And I was just like, it was like, you could watch the wave because like someone at the front would start watching it. And then the person behind would be like, oh, Gladiator. And they would turn it on and you would just watch the screens. Like, it was like watching stoplights all change, in sequence. It was
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Dude, Kenny, unfortunately I do have to go, but
yeah, no worries.
What a pleasure. I love talking to you.
All right. Get to wherever you got to go, bud.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, and I'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
All right, later, Kenny.
Later, Bob. Frame and Reference is an Albot production, produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan. If you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can do so by going to frameandrefpod.com and clicking on the Patreon button. It's always appreciated, and as always, thanks for listening.